Awesome show. Thanks, Chuck, Larry, Jonathan, for joining the call. Welcome to UCY.TV. This is Vince Easley. Welcome. We got Jose in the first hour, Miner Dave, and Colby coming up, going to take the second hour. So, yeah, that was a really, really good show. And I was so busy doing some promoting, if I can get my tongue straight. There it is, Chuck, my first tongue tie. That I was, of course, distracted. But anyways, this is, Jose and I are going to talk about a sensitive topic, and a lot of people seem to be jumping on the bandwagon about what's going on down here on the border. So with that, welcome, Jose.
Hey, thanks for having me.
A real pleasure. Welcome back. We've been missing you.
Okay, am I on? Because my headset sounds kind of weird, but I guess you're answering me, so I guess that means I'm on, right?
Hello, Jose.
No, don't start.
Can you hear me?
Like I told you earlier, I've got the mute selection on the Skype, so that tells me that I'm on. This is a sensitive subject, and there are many levels on it, and boy. It's even one of the topics that was discussed, back in 2007 when I went to go visit the Elaine and Ed Brown house, or as the feds call it, compound, right? Because we met there. We had a lot of barbecues and parties and stuff to try to gather attention to the plight of the Browns. And all the people, well, I'll say most of the people that showed up there, are these people that the government considers anti-government people, right?
That's what really strikes me as odd, is people trying to resist the tyranny of the government and then want to go down there and stand in as backup for them.
Yeah, and that was the deal. What gathered me... what really got me, because in case people have yet to seen pictures of me, I am your classic hardcore Mexicano-looking guy. I am the poster child for what a Mexicano is. You know what? Let me rephrase that. I am the picture you get in your mind when you think illegal alien. All right, you look at me, and you see me when you imagine that there's a truck load of quote illegal aliens unquote got stopped by a border patrol and they all jumped out and ran. You're picturing me running, right? So here I am in New Hampshire in 2000. As a matter of fact, it was about this time. It was June and July of 2007, and it was cold up there, by the way, at that time of year. And here I am walking around with my big old mustache and talking to all these guys who are open carrying, guns and ARs and all these, weapons all over the place. And they come up to me, and because of how I look, they found out that I was Cyrano Reno Gonzalez's father. And the first thing they come up to me and say, "Hey, I want to tell you how proud I am that you raised such a fine young man and such a fine patriot, and we have nothing against legal aliens." I mean, it was like I was the elephant in the room, right? Where they felt they had to come up here and clarify to me that they were okay with me being there as long as I was legal. And I purposely refused to tell them that I was there legally because I don't recognize legal or illegal when it comes to human beings. And like you said, these guys are guys who are saying, "Hey, the government has no business telling us what to what to do. The government, the less government, the better." But these are the same people, generally speaking, that all of a sudden want the government to kick out all these quote illegal aliens. Well, I argue this topic a lot. Over the last couple of years, I've decided that I was going to stop arguing the topic. My philosophy was, somebody posted something about never argue with idiots because they take you down to their level and then beat you with experience. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna adopt that philosophy. And I went, a step further, and I said, I don't argue with racists, bigots, and idiots because they take you down to their level and then beat you with experience. And of course, the experience that racists have, and I know I'm going to discuss the racist card here in a little bit too, if I get a chance. The trouble with racists is that they're so experienced at hating that is their answer to ignorance plus fear, hatred. And people who are, for example, on this topic, who are pro-immigrant, in the first place, I don't think this is even an immigration issue, but we'll discuss that later. But people who are arguing that anyone can come into this country and earn a living and live here and be happy in the pursuit of happiness and all this, blah blah blah. If we keep using the word immigrant, basically what we're doing is, feeding or acknowledging the monster. My argument is that any brown-skinned person who is a descendant of an indigenous ancestor of this land is themselves indigenous. And I say brown skin because most bigots are okay with white-skinned people coming to this land regardless of their background. And let's face it, let's admit that right now, right up front, because the first thing that racists say is, "Oh, I've got, some of my best friends are, or I've got, I don't care if you're brown, white, purple, pink, or polka dot." Yeah, they try to inject a little humor into it. But the reality is, when anybody says immigrant, or especially when they attach the I word, illegal immigrant. Whenever anybody is discussing illegal immigrants, what they picture in their mind is a Mexicano. They're not picturing in their mind anybody coming illegally, quote unquote, from Canada. They're not picturing in their mind anyone coming illegally, quote unquote, from England. Although that one English guy from Britain's Got Talent did kind of, get everybody's dander up, but his thing, all of a sudden people noticed that he was a foreigner because he was talking anti-gun talk and stuff like that. Can you imagine what would happen to Mexicanos if they were to come with guns? People are calling it an invasion. Now, I argued for the longest time that any Mexicano should be considered, and when I say Mexicano, I mean any half-breed person that comes of indigenous ancestry. And yes, like for example, my name is Jose Manuel Gonzalez, and yes, that is a European name because it is from España, and I acknowledge that, but I also acknowledge the fact that España is probably the least favored European country when it comes to, people liking each other in Europe. Now, and the evidence of that is what I refer to as subtle racism. Whereas I've covered this topic before. You ask an Englishman, what is that country that is, at the bottom of Europe, you're real close to Africa and borders with Portugal, and they'll say, well, it's Spain. Well, I don't know how they get the word Spain out of España, because speaking of respect, you should always call people by the name they call themselves. And the fact that people from England call people from España people from Spain automatically tells me it shows that it's a disrespect. Now, also, with my immigration and all Mexicanos, by the way, we come from European ancestors that raped our indigenous ancestors. Now, if you have a family tree like that, are you going to associate with the rapist, or are you going to associate with the person who raised you? Because I'll guarantee you, very few of those Españoles that raped those indigenous, grandmas stuck around to raise those mestizo babies, which is another. Mestizo is the Mexicano name for half breed, and notice that there are very few half breeds in America, because Americans, or in the United States, because on this land, the United States, the white people killed all these white half breeds, right? Anyway, so I've been arguing for the longest time that anybody from any Mexicano, which is anybody from Canada all the way down to the tip of Chile, anybody who was born on this land of indigenous ancestry has a right to roam anywhere on this land, a right to travel, a right to live in pursuit of happiness anywhere on this land. There were no borders in 1492. Yes, there were a lot of nations that sort of said, hey, if you come too close to our village, we're going to protect ourselves, and so on and so forth. Now, there were no imaginary lines. There were rivers, yes. There were mountain ranges, yes, that divided, the country, and some people lived better in some parts of this land than other people did. So they, they still formed civilizations and cultural groups and so on and so forth. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, so my point being, we have a right to go anywhere on this land that our indigenous ancestors went. Now, people will protest Israel and protest what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. And remember, Israel as a nation has only existed for what? Not even 70 years, right?
Since 1948, they were established under authority from the British.
Right.
They came as guests, amongst the Palestinians there. But of course, this is another topic. but it is pertinent to our discussion.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Okay, so 48. So in 98, they were 50 years. In 2008, they were 60 years. So we're roughly about 70 years old. And they were, like Vincent said, guests on Palestinian land. Now, Americans, or so-called Americans, people from the United States, will say Israel has to allow Palestinians to cross the border because Palestinians have family members on the other side of those borders. Well, probably very unlikely now because the Israelis are really good at that whole ethnic cleansing stuff. But they're right. They're right in saying yes. The Palestinians lived on this land, and you cannot just draw a line and say you no longer can cross this line. You know what? The United States was very adamant about that after World War II because Germany and Berlin were divided to where people could not cross a line, and supposedly it was the Russians or the communists that were not allowing, people to visit relatives on the other side of the wall. Well, you know what happened to that wall, right? In '89, I believe it was. It was torn down, and the United States cheered. As a matter of fact, if you recall, one of President Ronald Reagan's most famous speeches, and most people will forget whatever Ronald Reagan spoke about, but they do remember when he said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall," right? Because we want people from that side to be able to visit the families on this side. Well, this is very good. This is a very loving way of thinking about immigration. You know what? The same thing has happened here, especially to Mexicanos who lived in Texas and Arizona and California all the way up to Oregon. When that border crossed us, we have family on both sides of that border now, and now people are saying, no, let's build a wall here. And it's unfathomable for me to even be able to think that a people who cheered out loud when Ronald Reagan said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall," and then people that cheered and watched on television with tears in their eyes when the wall was actually being broken down, they were like, "Oh yes, finally, we win. The wall is being torn down." And now these same people are saying, "Build a wall, secure the border. We have to be safe." Oh, bullshit. Nobody's saying build a wall between us and Canada. Nobody's saying build the wall around all the beaches on the East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico and on the West Coast. No, you guys just want to build a wall between the United States and Mexico. That's racist. I know, playing the racist card. Anyway, we have a right to travel. Now, we have a right to live on the lands of our ancestors. And the funny thing is, when Europeans came here, maybe they, after a while they were a little, made to feel a little unwelcome, but the indigenous people of this land welcomed and even helped these Europeans to survive on this land. The foods were different, the plants were different. The Europeans brought their own seeds and stuff to plant that did very poorly on this terrain, and it was the indigenous tribes that helped them survive. To our own chagrin, right? Now, these people, the descendants of these people that were helped by the indigenous people are now rejecting the indigenous people, saying that they can't live on this land. What the hell is that all about? Okay, so we're a nation of laws, right? And everybody's got to follow law. Okay, I want to point out a couple of things. One, indigenous people have a right to travel anywhere on the land from which they are. There are no artificial borders for indigenous people. Two, it is impossible for one nation to write laws that pertain to the people of another nation. So if you're going to consider indigenous people foreigners because you think they're from the land of Mexico or the nation of Mexico, so they cannot, they're not from the United States. Well, you can't write laws that apply to those Mexicanos. You can only write laws that apply to the people of your nation. And if these people must abide by the laws of the United States of America, guess what? You just made them citizens. You can't have it both ways, okay? So we're a nation of laws. Anyway, recently, a federal judge, right? Nation of laws, a federal judge said, and I quote, the Immigration and Nationality Act provides no definition for the term illegal alien or the term lawfully present. I will repeat it. The Immigration and Nationality Act provides no definition for the term illegal alien or the term lawfully present. That's Montana Immigrant Justice Alliance, or MIJA or MIJA, depends on your accent, versus the state of Montana et al. Okay? The Montana Migrant Justice Alliance sued a lot of people in the state of Montana because the state of Montana was trying to make it difficult for people who were considered illegal aliens or who were not in Montana lawfully present, okay, trying to keep them from being able to benefit from the services that the state provided the taxpayers. Another argument against so-called aliens, right, or immigrants. People say that immigrants don't pay taxes. Of course they pay taxes. Okay, everybody pays taxes when you cross a toll bridge or drive on a toll road, or when you buy a candy bar, you pay taxes. You buy gasoline, you're paying taxes. What do you think? These Mexicanos are walking everywhere and just existing by absorbing their nutrients through osmosis out of nowhere. These immigrants are consumers by nature, and not only are they consumers, they are very unlikely to even apply for any kind of benefits or beneficial services because they are afraid that the attitudes against them will land them in jail or exported again. Okay, and as far as taking your jobs, give me a break. When's the last time you mowed your own lawn? Much less somebody else's lawn. When's the last time you retrieved your own trash? The jobs that these guys from Mexico, and I refuse to call them immigrants, the jobs that these guys from Mexico are getting, they're coming here because there's a demand for that labor. They're not coming here because there's a whole bunch of people who living in the United States who are willing to do those things, right? And then the another argument is, they refuse to learn Spanish. Well, so what? So what? If you want to be able to communicate with someone, it's up to you to make the effort to learn how to speak to those people, right? Most of you guys out there can't even talk to your wives. That's why I'm in business. That's why I'm a relationship guy. Because most of you guys can't even talk to the people that are closest to you, the people that you love, because you speak two totally different languages. There's a joke going around. What do you call someone who speaks 3 languages? Well, it's trilingual. What do you call somebody who speaks 2 languages? Well, it's bilingual. what do you call somebody who only speaks one language? Well, it's an American, right? Because they don't want to learn anybody else's languages. They just want everybody to learn their own languages. I cut that joke short, by the way, because I don't want to sound too malicious. Anyway, I'm a bit ill-prepared for tonight's show because I know I know you told me about it yesterday, but I thought I had all my ducks lined up, and I was going to be able to get all the information that I had. But there's actually a founding father, and when you're talking about the founding fathers, there's people think, well, it's all the signers of the Declaration of Independence, or it's all the signers of the Bill of Rights and all this kind of stuff. But really, there were a lot of founding fathers, many of whom have yet to even be recognized. But there was actually one of the founding fathers who wrote a lot on immigration, and mind you, the immigration, the Declaration of Independence, right, which I have posted as a background on my Facebook account. One of the complaints was that the king refused to allow immigrants into the New England, right? Remember, because back then the colonies were called New England. Okay, the king was refusing to allow people to come and live on this land, therefore being able to populate the land. And the biggest, that was one of the complaints, right? In addition to the taxation without representation and all this kind of talk. But the biggest problem back then was that there was the people that were coming over to the New World, as it was called, back then. They were coming over to get free land. So people would come in here, get free land, and work for themselves. So the rich literally had to do their own work. Guys who were rich had trouble hiring anybody because someone who had his own land and could grow his own food focused on that instead of focusing on working for somebody else and helping that somebody else get rich. So slavery was introduced, especially I forget the name that they use for slave, indentured slaves. Indentured slavery was introduced, where it became one of the first for-profit prison systems. It turned out that people in England were starting to get arrested left and right, and were given the option, to either go to prison for 10 years or be an indentured slave for 20 years. So you're kind of free. You get to breathe out there, but you're helping somebody so you can pay off the debt that the government said you owed, right? And this was the problem, which, by the way, is also the same reason why when the colonies declared independence was during the Industrial Revolution, just when rich people were really getting richer, and but they needed people to man the machinery and stuff, and people would rather build up their own farms than man machinery. So the rich, the elite went to the government, which they had contacts with them because they supported them in elections and so on and so forth, and said, hey, we need some cheap labor over here, right? So that's when the government actually went to a great expense in trying to increase the immigrants that were coming from Europe, especially cheap labor, people from Ireland and people from France and Italy and so on and so forth, right? it's when all that propaganda came, where America is the land of the free and home of the brave. Come on over here, and you'll watch many a documentary about how people came over, from different places. They gave up being what they what they were, so that they could come and be Americans, right? And live the American dreams. And when they got here, they found out it was a big scam. They worked in sweatshops and they had to they had to basically sell their souls. They had to indenture themselves because they couldn't even afford to take a boat or a ship over, to the United States. So they agreed to work for X amount of time. And once they got into the working part, the rich people, the management, nickel and dimed them, and nickel and dimed them to the point where these poor people, these poor immigrants, were unable to afford to get out of debt, right? Now, the reason I explained that to you is because all these immigrants from the other lands, from the old world, shall we say, with the exception of most blacks that were brought over here as slaves. Now, some blacks did migrate to the United States, so I won't put them all in the same category. But all these people from anywhere else, Africa, Europe, Asia, anywhere else that came over to this land, gave up being what they were so that they could come and be America. That's what we're told. But the descendants of indigenous tribes have always been here. In Nahuatl, the term is Nican Plaka. We did not give up what we were to come here and be American. We are whom we are, and we still live on this land. And it is impossible, really, for anyone to own land, because it's kind of hard to own something that is going to, outlive you, right? Do you really own the land? The indigenous tribes of this land, kind of had a communal thing going, to where they understood you cannot own the land. It was impossible to own the land, but you could work the land. And because the land was really everybody's land, everyone who was assigned land was expected to donate a part of the food that was grown on that land, so that others could exist when their crops didn't pan out. So that was kind of that sounds a little bit, or tastes a little bit like taxation, right? Which is probably, closer to being correct than anything else. But it was part of the communalism that you did not have to be given this land. And once you died, let's say you agreed to pay, 50 bushels of corn to the people, so that the people could eat, that were not working land but were contributing, elsewhere to the collective. And you died, your children didn't automatically get that land. They had to apply for it. And now the idea is that since they were helping you, they were probably the experts of working that land, so it was very likely that your children would get that land if that's what your child wanted to do. But when you think about it, and I know this sounds kind of communistic, and it is communistic, but what right do your children have to get what you worked for? Whereas another child, the son of another family may have worked much harder and deserve that land all the more. Your child under the Indigenous Network didn't automatically get it just because he was your child, you know. So it was a little more fair back in the Indigenous days, and of course, like I said, these are people who sweated, toiled, bled, died, danced on this land, and now we're being told that we can't go where we want to go. And the latest argument is what is it? We've gone. We were going through the whole list of stuff. The racists are saying that they don't want the illegals to come here. Remember, I just quoted you a court decision that kind of throws out the whole idea. There's no such thing as an illegal alien in the United States. People who use that term automatically are racists. Okay, and well, the latest thing is, they're diseased. They're going to spread diseases here. Well, if you get your vaccinations, you shouldn't have to worry about that, right? Personally, I believe vaccinations are a bunch of poop, big lie. But if you believe in it, get vaccinated. Yeah, the more people that get. The more racists that get vaccinated, the less racists we'll have, right? Anyway, and then we came up with, this is just human trafficking, and we don't want our government involved in human trafficking. Oh, please, you don't even care about these people. If you cared about them, you'd be donating, you'd be offering them your homes, and so on and so forth. Now, I want to kind of distinguish the difference between bigot and racist. Okay, basically, a racist is someone who believes in the superiority of one race over another, right? Or who acts differently, usually negatively, towards a person or a group of people because of the race of that group of people. Now, stop arguing with me that there's no such thing as race. The human race is all one race. Okay, yeah, whatever. If you really believe that, then you wouldn't be protesting these people coming from Mexico, okay? Okay, so a racist is someone who treats others differently, usually worse, because of their race. Okay, an example would be a member of a Ku Klux Klan who espoused the superiority of the white race. Okay, now, a bigot is a narrow-minded person, usually someone who's very intolerant or unable to see anyone else's point of view. People can be bigoted about things that have nothing to do with race. For example, you can be bigoted against people of a certain religion or sexual orientation. Okay, a good example of a bigot who also happened to be a racist, but he was, kind of the poster child for bigotry, is Archie Bunker from that old television sitcom, All in the Family. Okay? Now, technically, all racists are bigots, right? But certainly, some bigots are not racist, right? You can be racist, and because you are racist, you are showing bigotry. But you can be a bigot, like you can just not like homosexuals, or you can not like tall people, or you cannot like fat people. That's a big. There's a lot of bigotry against obese people lately, recently. That's like the new trend now. Okay, so. That there is a difference between being a racist and a bigot, okay? But if you're a racist, you certainly are a bigot. If you're a bigot, you can probably get away with saying that you're not a racist. But if you're bigoted against people of another race, guess what? You're a racist, right? Now that's something that a lot of people need to understand. Now, the racist card. I am always accused of playing the racist card. Now, the way I'm accused of playing the racist card is when I point out that what somebody has said or texted is racist, right?
You know, Jose, I'm getting exactly the response that I expected, and 5 people dropped out. You're being called a racist. I guess I'm a racist because I'm on your side on this, and I think people are not hearing, or are only hearing what their confirmation bias is. I'm sorry to tell you all this, but there's double standards. You know, it's like Clive Van Bundy was called a racist. He wasn't a racist. He, like you said, bigot, yeah, but does that necessarily mean that he's evil? No, it's a matter of raising in perspective. But I think that you all are really missing this. The idea of legalizing freedom is bullshit. And anybody that thinks that we ought to exclude anybody from coming what the idea that America is supposed to represent, you know, to defend the rights of the downtrodden, in my opinion, I think we ought to allow anybody that wants to come here for this freedom from all parts of the world, from Nigeria, Somalia, Honduras, Mexico, even Canada. You know, they used to come down here to come down for the benefits. So, you know, it has nothing to do with the pigment of the skin. Thank you, Hecky. You know, this right here is something that has really got me riled. People are so ready to jump on. I tell you what, I've been so discouraged about this movement now. It just goes flies in the face about what freedom actually is. So if you're not getting that, then you're really missing the point. I'm sorry if you don't like it. You want to call in, you want to voice your opinion, come on and give a call. Dave, you'll be coming up in the next hour. I'll allow you your response to this. You think that Jose is a racist and a communist or whatever? I really think that people's ears get plugged when these little words get in their ears, and it kind of stops them up, you know, like a mud dauber. So, you know, look.
It was something I should have said first. I should have said first that remember when I was saying that I don't argue with the racist bigots or idiots because they take it down to their level and beat you with experience. And what I should have said right after I said that is that they don't listen. Arguing with racist bigots and idiots is ineffective because they don't listen to what you have to say. People who are arguing for other people being able to come to this land, to this country, or to this nation, you know, we're saying we're trying to educate bigots, racists, and idiots, but the bigots, racists, and idiots refuse to listen because if they listen, they are endangering themselves of actually learning something that will benefit anyone other than themselves and their point of view. They don't want to hear it because they've been thinking this way all their lives. It's always been like this, and it's not going to change on my watch, right? So I'm glad you don't have someone, point counterpoint, because my point would be pointless. Because notice, I'm not hating on anybody. I'm not even hating on racist bigots and idiots. I'm explaining their point. You know why I'm explaining their point? Because I listen to their point. I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am inferior to the white man, right? And I'll tell you what, if I am racist, I'll point this out. If there is anyone out there who is superior, it is the descendants of black slaves that were bred for effect during slavery. When white owners actually got this big black slave and bred him with this big black female slave in hoping to get a bigger, blacker, stronger offspring. Okay, and I was listening to, I forget who the heck I was. It was a comedian the other day I was listening to, a black comedian saying, this happened back in the slavery days. That's why, the black population are 10% of the population in the United States, but we are 90% all athletes in football, basketball, baseball. Look at it because they were bred to be that. So somebody said that one time on national TV. Who was some Greek guy? His name was Greek something, I believe. He said it on a sportscast and got chastised. He got fired. I think they even brought him up on legal charges and stuff.
You talking about Howard Cosell?
No, it wasn't Howard Cosell.
Remember back then, he says, "Look at that monkey run."
Monkey go. Yeah. I remember. I remember he said that he got in trouble for it. But I think this was later on. This was post Howard Cosell, and I think it was somebody, the Greek. It might have been Jimmy the Greek.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Okay.
You're right.
And he said that the reason that football, he explained what I just said. The reason that sports is dominated by black people is because the black slaves were bred to be like cattle. The cattle in England were about 2 feet tall until they brought cattle over to this new land, and they started breeding cattle to be tougher because this was very harsh land, compared to England. And so now we have cattle that are 6 feet tall at the shoulder, and that's because of the. Hey, did y'all hear that by chance?
What was it?
No. Well, did y'all hear something come out of my microphone? Transfer complete?
No.
Oh, okay, good.
Hey, let me interject here just a moment. Now, illegal alien. First of all, one would have to go back and look at at the definitions of these legal terms and stuff. And you were explaining that a little bit earlier, how that is very contradictory. I just can't overemphasize enough that if we really believe in the right to self-determination, the right of free will to do and go as one will with a non-aggressive policy, do no harm. Person certainly, should be able to protect themselves and their property. Nobody's saying that Mexicans ought to be able to come over here and homestead your back 40 or anything like that. So, I apologize for getting my ire up, but this is something that I'm just seeing that it boggles my mind that those of us who truly want, and truly I guess isn't really a word, which it ought to be, want freedom. Shouldn't we really support the full idea of freedom, and shouldn't we make America truly what it's been perceived to be, and not a corporatocracy? We all, and me included, we all fall for, these little tricks that has been propagandized on us for a long time. So, to take a step out of our own paradigm, our own, to review our own notions in a non-confirmation biased manner, I think is very important. So, I do apologize for being pissed off, but I think there's sometimes that getting pissed off is okay. So hey, you guys want to call in? You want to voice your opinion? It's 718-717-8296, and hey, you're welcome. Speak up. Now's your chance right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, but when you do speak up, be careful that you avoid embarrassing yourself. And just expressing hatred. If you're gonna just speak emotionally as opposed to logically, and I want to say, one last thing. We got plenty of time, for callers and stuff. But darn it, I cannot find it. I know I've posted it all month long, but there was a guy named, what was his name? Something Lee something. Was one of the founding fathers. He actually wrote a lot of this stuff, saying. Remember, I was saying that one of the arguments against the king, the tyrant king, was that the king was not allowing immigrants to come onto this land, which, as far as my indigenous ancestors were concerned, they were probably okay with it. Don't let any more white people come here. They're killing us already, right? Anyway, this guy said and I will look it up and post it to the chat. He said, it is the right of every human being to migrate to wherever they wish to be, so long as they do so without imposing their will upon the people already living on that land. Okay? And he said, and so I read his stuff, and I was like, wow, this was actually going on, 300 years ago, 250 years ago. This argument was already going on. We think that they just started because Mexicans are starting to come over here. Well, Mexicans have always been here. But anyway, so I posted, you either have to accept what this guy said, because Thomas Jefferson agreed with him, by the way, right? You either have to accept that everyone has a right to migrate wherever they want to be, or all you white people have to get off of this land. You either have to accept that everyone is free, or you have to accept that your ancestors were wrong in coming here and you guys have to go back. Right? And you say, oh, we're going to go back. I don't even know where I'm from. Well, this is what's happening to these children right now. These children came here trying to find a safe place, a place safer than where they're from, and the United States is shipping them back to where the United States thinks they are from. And these are children. Basically, they're gonna just dump them at the Mexico border or at the Ecuador border or El Salvador. They're just gonna dump these kids out there, right? And not only kids, but if you guys have ever been entertained by the movie Born in East LA with what's his name?
Classic, yeah, with Cheech Barr and Tommy Chong. I was born in East LA.
Yeah, and
who's the president of the United States? John Wayne.
That guy from Death Valley days.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, and it comes from it comes from all these biases, and in that movie, he's like, oh man, I'm glad you're here, because this is all a mistake. I left my wallet, and the white immigration officer is listening to him, with his eyes half closed. And he's like, oh, it's just been such a bad day. I had to go pick up my cousin, and this and that happened, and I got picked up, and I left my wallet, and at the house, and basically the white guy says, look, Paco, I don't know how you learn to speak English so well, but if you don't have any ID, you're going back. Okay, so they pick up all these guys, and then they deported them to Mexico. And remember, in the movie, Cheech was put in charge of teaching these OTMs how to speak English.
Not really English, but Chicano, right?
Yeah, how to pass as Mexicano so that they can live in LA, right? OTMs being other than Mexican. And some of these guys were, Chinese or Korean or whatever, just trying to get in through the border in Mexico. But I'll tell you what, in the paper that I wrote, it was about 10 years ago, more Asians sneak in through the border from Canada than they do from Mexico. How do you like that? And in my research, my research is already dated because it's over 10 years old. I found out that the Canadian border, I forget the numbers, I believe is like 6 times the length of the Mexican border, but the Mexican border has 10 times more agents patrolling it than the Canadian border. Guess how many more times aliens they catch crossing the Mexican border than the Canada border? 10 times. Do you think that has something to do with the number of agents they have working it? Because they have 10 times the number of agents, so there's 10 times the number of people crossing, getting caught. Now, that's just the ones getting caught, by the way. That's not the ones that are making it through, which is it's probably 10% that are being caught anyway. Now, when I contacted, back then it was still called the ICE, ICE, right? I forget what the hell ICE stood for, but the immigration officer. I contacted them.
Yeah, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement.
Okay, that's the one. That's what they used to be called. Now there's something else. Now, I contacted them and I asked them Freedom of Information Act request and asked them, why do you have more agents in the Mexican-American border than you have in the Canada-American border? And their official reply was, because the Canadian border is too difficult to patrol.
Okay, now I know I'm back on. That's crap. I'm going to do the dreaded update tomorrow and see if that fixes a problem with Skype. So, yeah, I'm not doing anything different. I'm going to bring Jose back on for closing statements, and I'm going to bring Chuck from Double Cross, and we're going to walk on y'all just a little bit there, Kobe and Dave. So, first let me, let me get Jose and add him back in. Yeah, this pays me off. So, I'm going to add Jose now. Okay, so let's see. I believe Chuck, yeah, Jose is ringing. And now we have Jose.
I am here.
Okay, we're back, and I'm going to go fetch Chuck. So, give us some closing statements there, brother.
Right. Now, closing statement sounds too much like court, but I'll go ahead and say,
it's not okay to be racist, but if you have to be racist, keep it to yourself. You know, I can't stop you from hating for what, you know, I can't stop you from feeling inside whatever fear or hatred you have for other cultures. And I know some of you are you know, biting at the bit right now, and you're wanting to say, I'm not racist. I want everybody here to be legal. But at the same time, we have all these policies that are anti-Mexicano that you're supporting. And your words are very egregious to freedom, because freedom only works if everybody is free. And I think when the last argument we get is that, oh, you let these Mexicans come over here, they're going to turn the United States into a third world country. Well, guess what? We're already a third world country. We have a homeless crisis. We have millions of homes that are empty, and literally hundreds of thousands of people that are homeless in this land, and which is counterintuitive, because it's one of the arguments that the haters came up with. We can't even afford to take care of our own. How are we going to take care of all these Mexicans coming over here? You know, you can't have it both ways. You either support freedom or you support tyranny, because the Constitution was placed in as the law of the land, as a way to protect people from the tyranny of the majority. My clock shows that we're already into the second hour. Are you trying to get your other guests in?
No, I'm standing by. Okay, Chuck has accepted, so I'm going to go add him when you're done, so that I don't take a chance of screwing it up here.
Okay. Man, I've been searching like crazy, trying to find those posts that I made about that statesman that spoke about the right to immigrate. Of course, remember, this guy posted, you know, did a lot of research and writing. He was defending Europeans' right to immigrate to what was back then the colonies. So basically, he was you know, defending white people coming over here. I posted a video the other day of a black guy who actually leaked out some information in a court case that he was trying. He's a black attorney, and he defied a court order not to leak the video out. He did leak the video out, and consequently won the case, because there was a lot of pressure on the court to be accountable. And he was being interviewed by a guy who was very racist, you know, and the guy was pointing out, you know, the Constitution, blah blah blah, and the black guy told him, you have to remember that the Constitution was written by racist white men and slave owners, because that was the way things were back then. And he says, I wish you understood the Constitution the way I understood it. And I wish you understood the Constitution the way the Founding Fathers did. And then the black guy stopped himself and he said, you know what? You're right. You do see it the way the Founding Fathers wrote it. Because the Founding Fathers were racist. You know, because we have this awesome Constitution. By the way, did you know that Vietnam, South Vietnam, and I think even North Vietnam's Constitution is almost verbatim what our Constitution says? They so loved the words that they wrote them into the Constitution. Okay, and the story I heard was of a North Vietnamese statesman who was being interviewed by a newspaper from the United States, right? And the newspaper said, "Hey, you know, where did y'all get your Constitution?" And the North Vietnamese statement, he was an old man. Right? He says, "I remember we adopted the U.S. Constitution because the words were so beautiful and it made everyone equal. And then the Vietnamese stopped talking, and the reporter stopped writing. He looks up at him to see what's going on, and the Vietnamese was crying because at the time of the interview, the United States of America was bombing North Vietnam, right? And this Vietnamese was crying because it was like being molested by your father,
All right, Jose, I'm gonna cut us off here. We've gone over, and to be fair, actually, I'm gonna step on Dave and Colby a little more. I'm gonna bring Chuck in, and I believe he's going to reiterate a little bit more on what we've been talking about. And to be fair, Dave, you're going to have your opportunity to refute and make case for what it is you're saying. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm not a bit afraid of sharing information and ideas and having a discussion. We all do get a little bit heated and emotional, so that happens. But anyways, thank you, Jose, and we're gonna do some more, you and I, of course, and I'll talk to you more later. And I really appreciate your time, brother.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
All right, and that was Jose, and con mucho gusto. I appreciate you being with us, man. And here we go. I'm going to add Chuck now, and hopefully this is not going to knock us out. Here comes Chuck, looking good. I suppose. Here we are. I'm on air there, John. Have I lost us? Oh. Hey, Chuck, how are you? Yeah, welcome, Chuck. How are you?
Good.
Okay, I think we have no problems, and we are on air. Hey, Jonathan. Yeah, I can't talk right now. I can probably add you in a little bit, but to be fair, I'm going to get Dave and Colby in. So go ahead, Chuck. I appreciate that. I follow you very closely, and I think
we. There's a lot of truth in what Jose was saying, and not much that I disagree with. So I'm going to kind of emphasize the things that I do agree with. And first of all, is that a lot of people they are kind of laboring under this misconception that we're free, and we're not free. Your money is routinely stolen from you and given to other people. And what people are getting all stirred up about is that now our money is going to be stolen from us and given to people we don't approve of. Well, this is really a failure of the welfare state. It's not a failure of our freedom. If we had no welfare in this country, people wouldn't be flooding across the border for free things. They'd be coming here to work, for opportunity, for things like this, things that would make our country richer. And by far the majority of immigrants that come across here legally and illegally, that's what they come here for. Very few of them come across here to get the free stuff, but those are the ones that they publicize because it divides us, and it, I think it's, it just causes division. I think that's probably the main thing. And so it's important that we remember this, and we get we kind of, if you want this not to be a problem, you got to roll back the government institutions that are really causing the problem, the welfare, the free education. I mean, why is education supposed to be free? If communities want to have schools that are free, they can have free schools, public schools, and tax their people for it. But if they get flooded with a lot of people that come from out of the area to take advantage of that, that's their problem. It shouldn't be enforced on the whole nation that way. Communities should be able to set their own standards for things like this. Big government, centralized command control stuff. This is right out of the communist playbook. That's we're a lot closer to Soviet Union type of government than we are to a free government that our founders envisioned. And yes, a lot of them were slave owners, but they didn't really like the institution of slavery. And I know that if you read the letters that Thomas Jefferson wrote to people, he would just assume that it was not an institution that was existing. And most of the slaves that he quote-unquote owned actually received parts of his estate in his will and stuff. he passed it on to them like they were his family. So it was not everybody that had slaves was just an evil, someone who saw one race as being inferior to another. And certainly there were enough people that were racist that, but we can't just paint everybody with the same brush. And so that would be the only thing I would disagree with, is that Jefferson really believed those words. He lived those words for most of his life. He looked at them more as employees than as slaves, and they really did have, as far as they were free to go. I think at any time they mainly chose to stay there. He wouldn't have tracked them down if they would have left. They chose to stay there because they got treated pretty well. They had a pretty good life. They got to work the land, keep what they produced. So I wouldn't go too far on that with regards to the people who were involved with the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and things of this nature. They really did believe in property rights and those freedoms. It's just the problem that's happening on the border. So if you go back 100 years ago, anybody in the world could come to the United States. Didn't have to have a passport or a visa or anything. They just showed up. They'd have a little card telling them who they were. They'd give it to the person at Ellis Island, or there was a place in San Francisco where they had a similar operation, and they would get a stamp and get a card that says, "Here, welcome to the United States," and there you go. And they'd put them out from Ellis Island onto the shores of New York City, and they'd find their way in the world. And there was no welfare to pick them up. There was no this and that. They had to go and find whatever work they could to keep themselves alive. They provided a lot of the people to work in the factories, so helped the industrialization of America. There's a lot of things that aren't being done in this country. They're being done in other countries because we're keeping this labor force out of America. So I just have those things to say. I think that this debate about whether these people should come in or shouldn't come in is really a debate about socialism. Do you want it or not? If you want it, you better be prepared to pay the price of a huge wall to keep people out and a huge army to line up along the borders around this country, which are huge, immense borders, and to pay for all that too, because people, if you're giving away stuff for free, they're going to come here. And that's all there is to it. If you just roll back the welfare state, this problem will go away tomorrow. That's all I had to say. It's end of my rant.
Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate it, and I really appreciate the work that you do. Double Crossed Radio.
Vince, we appreciate coming on after your show. You always have a good audience ready for us.
Man, you guys are awesome. You and Drew. Colby's coming on. Colby and I have a little different opinion. Look, man, just because we have difference in opinion doesn't mean that we still can't focus on issues that really matter. So, like I said, I did.
That's right.
A little bit of emotion tonight. But
I don't even disagree with my wife. I don't agree with her all the time, but I still want to stay married because I care about her. So, I don't expect to agree with everybody on everything. It's not just my opinion. I think I'm right, but everybody's entitled to their opinion,
That's right. No matter how wrong they are.
Well, I'm done, and I'll turn it back to Dave and Colby. I didn't mean to cut into their time so much.
No, that's okay. We're going to continue with this topic, and I'll be posting.
Or Chuck, if you wanted to stay in, we were going to continue with this topic.
Yeah, you're definitely welcome to stay. I'm going to add Dave in right now. I'll be bugging out on you guys here in a little bit, and going to Double Cross Radio on Facebook and retrieving the information for y'all's show coming up here in about 45 minutes, and make a post there. So this is a good topic. Jose is still with us, and I think it might be a good idea to go ahead and continue this roundtable as a roundtable, that is, and David and Colby can pick up their topic next week.
Sounds like a plan. We probably would have time to talk about it.
Awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do is take turns so we don't step on each other. Colby, I brought you in after Chuck, so you take a stand, and David, and then I'd like to turn it back to Jose, and then we'll cycle back over to you, Chuck. Go ahead, Colby.
This is a harsh topic for a lot of people. I'm a little more conservative and more pro-border. I understand the Canadian border and why it's kind of not an issue, because most people don't want to cross it, for one, and if they do, it's normally from our side for free shit. But to generalize that, this is what I see locally here as well, and I'm sure Dave and Chuck can attest to this also as well. We do see that whenever you talk about illegal immigrants, the first thing that pops into someone's mind is, oh, you're talking about Mexicanos, as he would say. And that's actually not what is looked at. Throughout time, there's been a lot of people that have settled here and left. I mean, Vikings settled here way before even Columbus did. And there was other cultures that settled here before Columbus did. But to think that, honestly, any white person is anti the other and should leave if they don't do this, I mean, that's a little rash in my opinion. I'm Native American and I'm more Nordic. I'm Norwegian as well. And in a time like this, like Chuck was saying, I mean, with the welfare state we have, it's beneficial to come here. It's extremely beneficial to come here. You can come from nothing and make a good life for yourself on public schools, on somebody else's dime, whenever you'd like to. And it's not generally, at this point in time, it is an Achilles heel, though, because we have a lot of people that want to do a lot of harm to this country. So there's a couple of things in life that I always sway away from and make me weary. And that's when they say it's for public safety, it's to protect the children, and there's another one. There's a bunch of them that I kind of sway away from, and this is definitely one of them. It's not just the children that are coming in right now. And it's not an issue of helping people. That's not the issue. There are actually churches that are being voluntarianist and helping people, and they're doing the right thing down in other areas. And are people paying for that? Yeah, they are, but they're doing it at a voluntary rate. That's a difference. But when everything is taken, it's completely different. When it's all a taxation-based giveaway, and we can't even support our own people. We're giving to every other country in the world, for crying out loud, especially in the Middle East. Anybody that wants money, they can come crying to us, and we'll give it to them. It's happening all over, but most of it's because we want to take that over and monopolize later. So the problem is yeah, we have a corrupt system, but we're really not focusing on what the core problems are. Every time they say it's for the children, we know that they're going to push something horrible on us. We already know that one. But we continue to do it. Now, helping those children is one thing, but actually reuniting them with their real parents is another. We need to do that as well. It needs to be handled on both sides properly. We can't continue to, in this economic state, we can't continue to do it. We are destroying ourselves. We're destroying everything. And then some would say that collapse is a good thing, but in the same sense, collapse at this point in time comes with other people from other countries that we do not want their political ideology pushed in here, coming in and taking over. And that would be devastational to the entire system that we would like to rebuild, our actual republic. So, anybody else want to chime in can have it from there.
Thank you, Colby. Dave, you have the floor. Also, John has joined us. He was on the last show with the El Chile Effect. So he's going to come in after Jose. So stand by and go ahead, Dave. Here's your.
All right. Let's go back a little bit in time, called to the Roman days, and how my family conquered them by invading them through joining their military. That's how Rome was brought down. That's how the elites are planning to bring us down, is by bringing these poor people here, or any people here, in the economic situation we've got. And this is done throughout the history of time. If you want to bring down a great power, you bring it down within. You get people into the government that don't have their own people's interest in mind, but their power base. This is all about power and who's gonna control it, not a republic. And I'm not against immigration. I'm for immigration if we get rid of the welfare state. The problem is with the welfare state and the denial of minors of their property rights that they went out and worked really hard to find, and the government then says, well, you can't mine that, and it orders you not to work. And then you see everybody getting handouts, and you're turned down for Obamacare, you're turned down for state insurance, and you make less than a guy in China does. So it's because there's too many people riding in the boat, and not enough people pushing it, or the wagon, or whatever you want to call it. We can't survive as a country if everybody is on welfare. It won't work. It always collapses because they can only print so much money for so long. And this is part of the plan to put pressure on the citizenry to start a war. This is about starting a war, and Obama wants to proclaim himself as king. And this is what it's all about, or the oligarchy. They'll point, if it's not Obama, it'll be some other clown they want to appoint. Because each step they take and they diminish the republic. And, if you were to go to France and immigrate there, you have to learn their language, or you don't work. If you go to Mexico and you want to go down there to Mexico, you have to learn their language. What happens if you make a mistake and cross a border into Mexico and you've got guns? There's a Marine in jail right now on an honest mistake. And what? They don't. They make an honest mistake and cross our line from their military people. And what do? We send them back home. Well, see, there's a double standard here. It's okay for them to dump their economic problems onto us. Why don't they, Mexico is full of resources. Why don't they let the Mexican people, why don't they have a grant where they could go out and file, like our country does, that they gave to their citizens to go out and find those minerals or economic well-being? It's because Mexico is ruled by a couple of families. Kind of like Jackson and Josephine County. There's 6 families that run the whole show here. So how is that beneficial to the people when you deny them the right to own property? Property is your private space where it's yours and you're king of your castle. You have the right to enclose people out. And think of your property line is your, if you own property, is the limit of your jurisdiction to your sovereignty as a citizen. If you don't own property, you become property. And in the United States, west of the Mississippi, the land hasn't really been developed. And they're violating all these trusts duties. People. We have a representative republic. You vote for people to represent you as your public agent. That means they have to follow the Constitution, the rule book. And the rule book says that you're supposed to be free and have access. Well, then what's a driver's license for? If you don't have a driver's license, you can't drive a car. They'll write you a shitload of tickets. So when he was arguing your freedom of movement, that's for citizens. That's not for non-citizens. And the immigration law is the only law that has jurisdiction over people that are not citizens. Our rights don't apply to Mexico, and Mexico's oligarchy doesn't apply to us, but they're trying to make it so. And I'm for freedom. And Jose, I really like you, but you angered me, and I apologize for what I said on the chat line. But because we don't see eye to eye on this, because we have a welfare state, and Oregon is the biggest one of them all. and you can't get work here because there is no work because it's all moved overseas.
Well, let me come in here. Thanks, Dave. Stand by and we'll bring you back in. Hold on just a minute, Jose. And I'd like to say that if you blame somebody, okay, if the government comes in and steals from you and redistributes it to other people, mainly corporations, which go hand in hand with the governments of this country, the corporatocracy, then so they come in and steal from you and distribute to other people. Well, you can get mad at corporations, but at the individual, they've all been trained and conditioned to accept the way of things, and it's done on purpose to create a dependence on the nanny state. And as Chuck said in chat here, no one in government is against the welfare state, and it isn't just about those on food stamps. There is a lot of corporate welfare keeping poorly run businesses afloat. That's exactly right. I mean, too big to fail? Come on. What's this government about? It's supposed to be, we suppose it's for we the people. But if you think that, then I'm sorry to tell you that you're pretty much clueless, because that is not the purpose of government. The purpose of government is to keep itself in power, and that is by making a case that
that's the way it is now. It wasn't always that way.
Well, I mean, we've been boiling frogs. Incrementally, we've been conditioned to accept the ways that it is right now. So, without a careful study, and obviously we here have done our homework and studied. Both of us, or all of us, are well read. So. I think their plan is working pretty good, because the divide and conquer, the age-old adage from Rome, works pretty good, and it's still in effect. So stand by, and Jose, I'd like to bring you back in, and then afterwards, John, you're welcome to make your point as well, and then we'll rotate back around to Chuck, and then Colby, and back to Dave, and I will interject along the way.
Yeah, well, I want to start off at the risk of repeating myself. You cannot argue that we have a right to travel. By the way, the right to travel is for people, for the people. The Constitution applies to everyone. The Constitution was written for everyone. It does not say up to this border or up to that border. And if you want to argue that it's for Americans, well, guess what? North America, South America, we are all Americans. Now, I like how Vicente said, if the system is giving these people benefits, don't blame the people, blame the system. Okay, and when he said that, he reminded me, there's actually no law, but I keep quoting that court decision where there is no such thing. The term illegal alien has not been legally defined. So, and a nation cannot write laws that do not apply, that apply to people from another nation. And that being said, I want to point out, it is not against the law for Mexicanos to come here and work. It's not against the law for anybody from any nation to come to the United States of America and work. It is not against the law for them. It is against the law for businesses to hire undocumented people. But you don't see these business owners being deported. You only see the workers being deported, when there is no law that says that they have to be, that they can't be here working, right? The law applies to the business owner. I'm sorry,
there's actually a law here for working. There is.
Okay. I was going to say, if they're not working for a business, then who are they working for? Not some private landscaping thing. Well, it still constitutes business according to the company.
What?
Government.
This idea of having a job itself is something that has been conditioned. Most people never had jobs before. Everybody was self-sustaining. Shout out to Off-Grid Journey, Drew, coming up in the next hour, also in his new endeavor here on UCY on Sundays. And, empowering us to, take steps to withdraw from the system. And that's of great importance. like the unnamed Dana Martin, where she's not allowing her kids to be conditioned by the state. So don't stand against the state, and then on the other hand, speak out your other side of your face and defend it.
Yeah. And one more thing I want to clarify. I did not say that all white people think this way. I was very particular about addressing racists and bigots and idiots. Okay, I don't say that all white racists. I did point out that there is a subtle racism going on out there, and that's a topic for a whole nother show, because the subtle racism are things like what I just said. Where you said you don't think about. You don't think that all immigrants are just from Mexico. Yes, you do. Most people do. Not all people, but I'm addressing the racist. Okay, for me to just paint.
Did you just actually tell me what I think?
Oh, you're gonna start attacking me?
See there, that's not a logical assumption there. I'm sorry, Colby, but I'll tell you what. There's an old saying that you can tell which dog you hit when you chuck a rock at him by him barking. Now, I'm not trying to insult you, but I think a lot of times people hear what they want to hear and block out. I've been listening pretty closely, and I think that the definition here is pretty clear. Jose is not calling you an idiot or a racist, but I mean, if you feel like that's what he's doing, I mean, that ain't his fault or his problem. That's on you, brother.
Yeah, well, to answer this question, no, I will never tell anybody what it is that you're thinking. I'm telling you what it is that I'm hearing, just like you try to tell me. Now, if I'm failing in communicating what I'm trying to communicate, that's my fault. Maybe I need to stop stuttering. Maybe I need to get my information a little bit better. Now, a couple of you guys said yes. Well, in Oregon we have this, or in the United States we have this. I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. And if you guys have the supportive information to give me to satisfy your or to justify the way you think, and I mean the laws in the state, which, by the way, what I keep posting about it, what I read about, that the federal judge said that the Immigration Act has not defined the term, and therefore the states cannot define what an illegal alien is, because it is the job of the federal government. So if you have laws that can support your argument, I'll be glad to listen to it, because I want to get this right.
I have an answer to that, a legal one. The Supreme Court has said any word that's not defined in a statute is defined by Webster's Dictionary or Black's Law, 5th edition. So it has been defined if it's in a dictionary. And that's the way the Supreme Court defines it for the common man, is a Webster's Dictionary. So the federal judge, he was just giving his opinion. He wasn't giving facts, because the facts are under common law, under common definitions. It's defined by Webster's Dictionary, by the Supreme Court decisions in the past on other issues,
let me,
like government-to-government coordination.
Hold on, forgive me for cutting you off, but you see, you're just giving me words, whereas I have told you that it was Mija versus the state of Montana et al. You can Google that and find the information that I told you. Okay, you can Google what I tell you, and then, okay, I'm going to start again after being interrupted again. I apologize for interrupting you.
I'm sorry, this is highly emotional, so we probably need to police ourselves here and let each of us be a bit respectful here towards one another. I know that I'm guilty of the same thing as well, so let's back up a little bit and just start. Go ahead, Jose.
Yes, it is a judge's opinion, but it's a judge's opinion that has set a precedent. Now, I'm not saying that your opinion doesn't matter. I'm saying that give me some facts so that I can look it up. I don't want to be ignorant. I want to be educated on this. Okay, so when somebody tells me that they read blah blah blah, I'm like, okay, I want to see it. I want to read that too.
Also, let me interject that Black's Law is the Black's Law definition is very important because it gives us an understanding of the words used against us in the legalese. So, but who was that? Was that on? Oh boy, somebody guessed it. They had I forget, but somebody. It was Nathan. No, might have been Shali on Sunday. I can't remember. Somebody had a really good guess. Sorry. No, that was JJ against the law. Yeah. But anyways, hey, let's bring in John. Let's bring in John real quick, and let's let him go a little wrench in between us all here and redirect. So come on, Jonathan, give us your thoughts on this. You're there, Jonathan. Well, I see.
Sorry, I was I have
Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead, brother.
So I was trying to get there's a man that I'm working with that I thought was from also from Mexico. I was trying to get his opinion. I turned off the mic for a second. Sorry.
That's fine.
So I kind of missed about maybe 5 minutes of what you're talking about now.
That's
fine. Is it my turn?
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us what you think about the...
Oh. Well, my take on it is basically, what I think it was David or Jose, I don't know. You were saying, in the beginning, we just came here, showed up, and, welcome to America, And as far to my knowledge, I could be wrong. They could have changed that now, but to my knowledge, there's no statute or law that says that you can't come here to exist in America. It's when you start working for corporate people that they get mad and want to, deport you back wherever you came from. But on the same hand, the guy brought up the fact that, if we as Americans cross into another country, we are the illegal aliens because we are crossing without their permission.
Yeah, I'd like to say real quick, used to, I was able to, travel freely across the southern border. But now, hey, if I happen to get over there, I would be the wetback, and I would probably have a lot of trouble getting back in.
Why? Because of passport issues?
Yeah. I mean, besides that, because of me being so outspoken that I probably, I bet you I couldn't fly on a plane. I bet you anything. Especially since I spent time up at the Bundy Ranch covering that situation. You got to know everybody there's.
Well, I mean, at the same time... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
At the same time, there are people in Mexico called Mennonites that speak a lick of English but look whiter than, the whitest white person you're going to see. So they would conceivably have a hard time getting across the border either way, probably, because they don't speak English, but they're white, so, either confuses everybody or, and don't let me sound racist here. I'm not sounding, I'm just, stating facts in a very blunt way, sometimes mistaken for racism.
Yeah, because, we all have our, our notions about what it is that is. So it's like, Bill Clinton, depends on what the definition of is, right? So, right. we may, certainly agree in many areas, and, unfortunately, this is an issue that does bring about emotions, and that's, something that makes up us as being human, and it's not necessarily a bad thing either, right?
Right. Well, I assume that this whole issue of border issues arose because of the children crossing over incident. Am I correct?
Yeah, but I'll tell you what. 2 decades ago, as I was traveling across Texas at another time. You know, I'm going through a checkpoint there, and of course, I'm white, European descent, and you know, all they want to do is look and see if they might spot anything that they might consider to be contraband. But you know, I remember some history 50-odd years ago, 60-odd years ago, that in Europe, where we can recall these words: papers, please. So that was in Nazi Germany, right?
What word?
Papers, please.
Tienes papeles. Yeah, I mean, if I can go off on a little tangent here, you know, I was raised by a rather discriminatory parent. So for a while, I wasn't sure what to think, because you know, I would go home and hear about how, you know, these people are bad. You know, they, you know, crossing our border, or you know, talking about African Americans in a very, you know, derogatory way. And then I go to school, and my teacher, you know, is like that way. And she's out of African descent, and she's the nicest person I can ever meet. So, you know, I'm sitting here growing up thinking, like, not knowing what to think, you know. And then I finally realized that, you know, normal people aren't, you know, that racist. I finally learned what racism is, and realized that, you know, my grandmother was racist, and you know, but then I found out that the whole concept of racism is just totally silly. You can't be racist, because that would mean you have to hate yourself as well, at least in this society, because with I'm being American, because you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there is very few people, if any, that is not mixed with something from another quote-unquote race.
Okay. All right. I appreciate your input. Who would like to...
I'll agree with that.
Who'd like to chime
Sorry,
in?
just on the concept.
I think it's my turn.
Okay. Chuck?
Yeah, I just wanted to, you know, Jose was really getting excited with the things he was saying. I agree with Jose. I agree with you almost everything. I mean, I think the things we disagree with are so minimal, and I'm not even trying to look for them. I think you had it right on. There's individuals act to do things that will better their own life. I mean, if there's anyone out there that are listening that don't they don't make your actions dependent on things that you're thinking are going to make your life better. If you do things, I mean, no one goes out there and purposely does things to make their life worse. Then you have to look at these people who are coming to America because they're going to get a better life. Now, before, and this isn't just people from Mexico, there's a lot of people from Eastern Europe that want to come here too.
Sorry, caller, I can't add you. If you'll add me to Skype, I'll bring you in. Vincent.Easley, number 2
okay.
digit. Vincent Easley, capital II, second. I'm sorry, it's dumping the network. So if you send me contacts to Skype, I'll bring you in. Okay, go ahead, Chuck. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I'm just saying that my own wife, I'm married to an immigrant from Poland, and my father, my biological father, was an immigrant from Finland. And so, you know, I understand all this stuff. There's people come from all over the world to come here, and they used to come here to work. That was a really good thing for us. And now they come here because they're in bad shape. As you get so that you lose opportunity, the people that want to work, they're going to other places now because they can work and make more money there. Their taxation rates are lower. They have more freedoms. The people that are coming here now, they're coming here because of all the free stuff. And we've become our own worst enemy. We're doing things as a country that are purposely making our country a worse place. We're not as industrious as we once were. We're getting seduced by that welfare state as well, and we're liking all those free things and decide it's better just to stay at home and watch football games and play video games on TV and whatever that is to go out there and kind of bust your ass and get a job. And I know that Americans aren't like this, all of them. I'm not trying to overgeneralize, but the problems aren't the people. The problems is the government. It's almost always the government, and it's just like that's an easy answer. But the government, what's happened? It used to be the free travel. The ability to travel was a freedom, and it was something that was worldwide a freedom, and people didn't even question it. It was just the way things were. And labor unions in the United States and in other countries, they began to resent influx of immigrants into countries which they thought were keeping their wages down because of supply and demand issues and things like this. That really isn't the truth, but that's what they thought.
Well, at least that's what
the
they
real
do.
truth is if you're in a if you're in a situation where you're being overpaid, then that's just the facts. And you can have government create all sorts of laws like they used to do to keep blacks out of construction work, and the immigration laws are just another example of that kind of union racism. And unions, they're full of people that are Hispanics and blacks, but they weren't when all these laws were put in place, and they were put in place to keep people out so they could keep their wages up. But what happened is a lot of those jobs left the United States because they're going to, if they need low-income workers to do this work because they are selling their products worldwide, if they can't get that kind of employee in America, they'll go to the countries where they can. And so one of the reasons we've lost all these jobs is because of all these immigration laws. Plus the inflation from the Fed, and it's pretty complicated, but this is a contributing factor. So that's just my 2 cents about it. Jose, I think you're right on, and you're coming from a different perspective, so we have a little different view of things, but I don't disagree with anything you say in general. And I think that just the specifics that I do disagree are probably due to the fact that we come from different experiences, and they probably aren't very substantial. There's just minor things, so keep on with what you're doing. I think you're doing the right thing. That's all I have.
Well, I appreciate it. Respect for your opinion. And I do want to point out one thing to everybody, which is kind of the gist of what I was saying before. If the government program exists and people are taking advantage of it, by the way, I disagree. I think fewer Mexicanos are taking advantage of that proportionately or representatively than whites and or blacks. I haven't done research on that, but the last time my research is about 10 years old. But anyway, I disagree with that what you're saying. But if the system exists, and you cannot blame people for taking advantage of it. Now, the argument there is you don't want to pay for these people to have a free ride, and I understand that.
I don't want to pay for anybody to have a free ride. I think it's bad for our country.
Exactly. You don't want to pay. I understand that. Stop paying. It's not the people's fault. You stop paying. Stop supporting that system. This was my argument when I first opened up, where I said, you cannot be anti-government because you want to be free and then be pro-government because you don't want Mexicanos getting a free ride. You can't have it both ways. You have to make a stand and say, you know what? I don't want to pay for it. I'm going to stop paying my taxes. And that's your first step towards getting things the way you want to be. Unfortunately,
Jose, I want you to know that I'm all for what you just said, and I'm even taking another step. I'm considering moving to a Central American country so I won't be have all my money stolen from me by the government to distribute to mostly to corporations. The banks got trillions of dollars in the banking bailout. It's just criminal actions that are taking place in this country now.
And let me inform you a little bit. There are so many so-called Americans from the United States that reach retirement age or get close to retirement age and move to Mexico. They don't go there. They don't become legal citizens. They just take their money and go to Mexico. You will be surprised how many people do that. You get this idea in your head. You think, I'm
not surprised at all.
The only one.
There's over 5,000 American expats living in Cuenca, Ecuador.
Yeah, that we know of.
Right, that we know of.
So sure.
I thought about that same thing a long time ago, but the information that I got was if I didn't have money, if I tried to work there, that I would be in trouble because I'm a gringo. So I guess that makes sense if you're retired, but I've always wanted to move to Mexico because ever since I got ever since I woke up to the facts of the government is and the banks and it's all a scam and you're out to get you, where they're out to keep us submissive to them. But I've always wanted to move, but it's always been the issue of passport and then what do I do once I'm there?
Well, Jose can correct me if I'm wrong on this. I don't have great information about this, but I think as long as you're thinking of working for somebody else, you're probably correct. But there are a lot of opportunities everywhere you go for people to start their own business and work for themselves, and I don't think Mexico frowns on that at all. You may have to hire an attorney to be someone who can be like what do they call that, to sign documents for you and things. A legal representative so that you could be legally be in business, but I don't think there's any law against you having your own business.
Heck, you could sell chewing gum on the street and probably make a good living. And I want to point out something else about Mexico, which a lot of people from the United States fail to realize. The same people that run, the same kinds of people that run the United States are the same kinds of people that run Mexico. If the poor people of Mexico actually ran the country, there wouldn't be anybody coming over here. You know what I mean? They would not. It is the same policies that you guys are complaining about here, that jobs are leaving the nation, going somewhere else. Well, that benefit, the whole NAFTA thing, benefited Mexico for about 6 months, and then that's it. Now the jobs are going somewhere else. The same elite, the banksters that are running the United States of America, buying off politicians, are the same banksters and elites that are running Mexico. That why do you think the United States went and supported the overthrow of the democratically elected government in Honduras or Ecuador? They're doing the same thing to Venezuela. It is not really the United States, you the people. It is the United States, the elites that control the CIA and so on and so forth. That's a big issue. But when you go to Mexico and you want to be a businessman there, you're going to run into their laws. The people, the culture are going to embrace you. As a matter of fact, if you even just call an old lady, tia, she's going to love you because our culture embraces anyone who even tries to be part of the culture, whether you're black, white, or whatever. The culture, because we are a poor people, we embrace people who give us the respect of trying to communicate with us. Right?
Oh, I found that out long. Sorry if Sorry, I tend to go on stuff. Go ahead. Never mind.
Well, we see, but no, that's good. That's the way I like to be interrupted, right? But but what you're going to run into is you're going to run into the mayor. He's going to say, the mayor of the town. He's going to say, "Hey, do you have a permit?" And you're going to say, "Well, why do I need a permit?" And he says, "Because we require you to have a permit." But the person that's buying your gum, remember I joked that you could sell chewing gum on the street like the poor kids do, and make a living. The people who are buying your gum don't care if you have a permit. They just want the gum. But the mayor wants you to pay him to pay a fee he wants his cut, right? And that's the same thing you have here with these corporate entities that call themselves the municipalities shutting down lemonade stands. How ridiculous have we become? But that's the same thing you're going to run into, when you go to Mexico. And another thing that I want to address is, I doubt, and I respect you guys, and I want you to know that all of you. We may disagree, but I still love you guys, right?
Hey, let me add real quick just a short meme here from Brandon Council. They're going to come up here. The following Double Cross Radio over on Blog Talk is New World Order Truth Radio Late Night Roundtable, and just a special shout out to them. They got a bunch of great people over there that really work together. And he posted, "My country is the world. My religion is to promote freedom." And hey, I can agree with that. Right?
Yeah, I love that.
So, Jose, I'd like to tell you about a story when I was in jail for my mining claim. They put me in with the Hispanic group. They were all there on federal felony holds, and they told the Mexicans I was in there on an immigration hold, which they were just screwing with me. But because the county cops didn't know why I was in there. They were left in the dark. But they put me in a dorm, and they had the Hispanics on one side and the racist on the other side. By the way, there was Hispanic surname guys on there on the other side that were white, Hispanic Caucasians that were probably worse than any United States citizen. But when I talked, I preferred being on the Mexican side because I hate racists. And because, see, that's where my discrimination is. I discriminate against people hating people just because they hate people. And that makes me hate them, and I don't like to hate. So I had a good time while I was in jail with the Hispanics because they serenaded me on my night of my release. And even though I don't understand Spanish, they had wonderful voices, and I loved it.
Yeah, let me tell you. Sorry, let me tell you a quick story.
Oh. Okay, we're coming up to the end of the hour. We've got about 3 more minutes or so. Really appreciate everybody coming. Go ahead if you could make it quick. And yes, we will be. I will post the archive for this, and it will upload to YouTube as well here in a few hours. And I would go ahead and make your point, and I will prepare to take us out here in less than 2 minutes.
Okay. Very quickly. I found out just how amazing Mexicans are in America because I started digging telephone poles to make some extra money, and digging down and then treating them and backfilling it. And I forgot to bring food, and the dude breaks the sandwich in half and hands it to me. I'm like, no, it's your sandwich. We've been working hard. And he's like, no, you take it.
Absolutely. You know what? I quit school and went to work as a teenager. The Mexican people are dear to my heart. I love them a whole bunch, man, and I have nothing but respect. Now, of course, society has caused other peoples to drift in different directions, so we're coming up to the end. Hey, look, Jonathan, thank you for joining in. Welcome to UCY. Chuck, fantastic. Jose, you're awesome, brother. I love you. Colby, David, hey, I hope you guys didn't get pissed at me, man. I love you guys, man. I appreciate what you did. Listen, hey, we're coming up to the end. Stay tuned for Double Cross Radio. Their guest is Julia, and she's the guest tonight. Also known as BraveNewWorld.com. She's a promoter of the anti-state mentality. She makes videos, writes articles, and on. So we're going to come up to the end here in just a minute. I'd like to thank Jaja. Radioactive is going to take us out, and a reminder also, at last, Phyllis Sinclair, that was previous intro for the show. I love her and appreciate it, and I've not had the heart to tell her that we had to take that down because YouTube called them copyright violations on the use of the song, which we did have permission. Thanks, Jules, for all your hard work. Without her, we wouldn't be here on this forum and have the ability to have this discussion. I'm very proud of the way this drifted in. We found our commonality. Love and peace, y'all. We're out.
Democrats, Republicans, your information's jumbling. The USA is crumbling. Y'all sit back, dumb as shit. The mass invasion, the home invasions, the CPS is coming to snatch your babies. These confiscations, the conversations, they're operating within the zones we traded. We're in the matrix, now we're totally raided. They infiltrated, finally the devil gave in. you can't hear me, then pump up the volume. McDonald, Bin Laden, Osama, Obama, bring up something real, legalize marijuana. Everything on a bong hit is as blonde as Madonna. Radioactive, intergalactic, counterattacking.